viewers, welcome to my channel, Court the Nurse Realtor, and I am Court. If you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you are an oldie but a goldie, we don't say goodie, we say goldie around here. So if you are an oldie but a goldie, hey girl, hey boy, hey, welcome back to my channel. This video today is of course nurse related. I have on my scrubs, and it's basically I'm going to talk about a process or a major part of utilization review. I get a lot of questions about utilization review. What should I know? What shouldn't I know? And this, what I'm going to describe to you today, inpatient versus observation status, is like one of the fundamental basics of utilization review nursing. So I just wanted to just educate the masses and hopefully help you to gain better knowledge. Maybe you're a new utilization review nurse and you're like, I do not understand this concept. Maybe you want to get into utilization review, or maybe you just want to be plain old nosy. Either way, please stay tuned to this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring my bell. Ring my bell. Ring my bell so you can stay notified of my weekly videos. Okay, so let's get into it. Utilization review is a sector of case management, okay? It's part of case management, and if you want to know more about what utilization review and the role that it plays, I will drop that video in the description box. So go ahead and watch that video first prior to watching this, so to kind of get you caught up. But a lot of nurses want to transition into utilization review, and it is a total mindset shift, because if you are a bedside nurse, you don't really think about statuses, payment, reimbursement, and things of the sort. So utilization review does not come naturally, and it takes a little practice, but it can be done to understand the mentality of a utilization review nurse. One of the basic principles of utilization review is status. So a status is, number one, you have inpatient and observation. This is the two main statuses that people talk about, that people, you know, that basically shape the reimbursement for different patients. So you have an inpatient and observation status. And if you notice, if you're a bedside nurse, that most of the time there are physicians, when you're, especially if you are receiving a patient, or if you're in the ER, you are transferring a patient to the floor, you will see that the physician always starts with a status, observation or inpatient. Those status determine reimbursement from payers. So that could be your managed care, which would be your Uniteds, your Aetnas, your United, Aetna. I'm trying to think of another popular one, Humana, okay? And then you have Medicare. Hold on. So those those payers, they reimburse the hospital for the type of stay that a patient has. And that the reimbursement is determined by observation and inpatient status, okay? So that is one thing to know. Now, these statuses, once again, are not locations. You could basically be anywhere in the hospital besides NICU and be in a observation status. You could be in the ICU and be in observation. You could be in PICU. You can be in your very high acute level. Oops, so that's acute. ICU, PICU, PCU. You could be on those units in observation status, because it's not a location, it's a status. Okay, so first let me clear that up. So if you ever get a call from a utilization review nurse and she's like, oh, well, you know, your patient is in inpatient status, but it needs to be in observation, even though you are ICU nurse, it's not status. I mean, it's not location, it's status, okay? Those statuses are determined by acuity and medical necessity for that patient, okay? It is determined by what type of level of care are we giving this patient to justify if it's an observation or inpatient status, okay? So let's clear that up. Now, we can view the patients in two different lenses, and how we will view that will be a Medicare lens or a managed care lens. And when you say Medicare, most of the time we group those with your self-pays and your Medicaids. And when you say managed care, that is of course your anything else, your Humana's, United's. They have smaller companies, Care Plus, all those different companies that are managing a health benefit plan. Okay, so two different lenses. So from a Medicare lens, when you think of observation, you're thinking, okay, I think this patient is coming in, he may stay 24 hours and he may be discharged the next day. That's like an observation, typical look at it. From a managed care lens, that becomes tricky because first of all, you need to know if that managed program, if that insurance, that payer is participating, if that payer has a contract with your facility, and if so, that payer may have stipulations that have been spelled out through negotiations and a contract of what observation and what inpatient criteria looks like. So they may say, okay, this patient needs to fail 48 hours of observation. This patient needs to fail 72 hours of observation prior to rolling him to inpatient, especially if it's not a parent inpatient status. Okay, hopefully that's making sense. So those are two different lenses that you can view observation. Your inpatients are your direct admits. So say for instance, they're coming in for chemotherapy. Those are direct admits. Those patients are typically admitted to inpatient because the stay is already approved. They know they're going to be there for a long time. Your transplant, your bone marrow transplant patients, those patients typically are inpatient from the get-go. Somebody who comes in and is intubated and going straight to the ICU, that patient is going to be an inpatient status. Your NICU babies, they are inpatient statuses. Okay, so remember, those cases have to be severely acute to come into the hospital as an inpatient, or prearranged to come into the hospital and be categorized as an inpatient status. Okay, this is kind of, utilization review is fluid as well. Let me say that it's fluid because it really is determined by your participating payers in the contracts, and it's determined by the Medicare, Medicaid standards. So with that being said, observation and inpatient status determine the reimbursement your facility receives from payers. Okay, so let's do a case study. We have a patient who has cellulitis. He is admitted to observation status, and his history is that he saw his PCP. The PCP prescribed him oral antibiotics for the cellulitis. He took it for 2 or 3 days. No improvement. He actually got worse. So he came into the ED. The ED has given him IV antibiotics. He's gotten about 2 or 3 doses, maybe 24 hours of IV antibiotics, and the cellulitis still persists. We have an infectious disease consult, and we're waiting for the ID doctor to come in. But from your doctor's notes, it looks like the cellulitis still remains the same. With that type of patient, we're going to look at it via two lenses. From a Medicare lens, this patient, I have gotten a patient, so that means that he's going to be going into his 48 hours soon, because we get him after he's already had 24 hours of med. We're going to look at this patient like, okay, it does not look like this patient is going to go home after 2 midnights, which is a big rule for Medicare, 2 midnight rule. So it looks like he's gonna stay 2 midnights. It looks like he might stay 3 or 4 midnights. So with this being said, I may consider rolling this patient to inpatient, or I will have a conversation with the physician on inpatient. It just depends on your hospital protocol, but you will be thinking, okay, maybe this patient can be rolled to inpatient because of the notes, presentation, and he's failed outpatient antibiotics, he's failed IV antibiotics, and he's had a couple of doses, and it still persists, and we probably giving him payment. So with that presentation, if this was a Medicare patient, I'm gonna go ahead and say roll it. One factor that I have not discussed is the criteria that we use to judge this. So I'm not just looking at this patient, I'm looking at the chart, but I'm not just looking at this patient and thinking to myself, okay, maybe it will roll. I'm also using a guideline, a system, either Milliman or Interqual, to determine the appropriateness for care. So that also helps you determine what status this patient should be in. But for all intents and purposes of this video, I kind of didn't want to throw that in. I'll do a video on those systems later. But we're just talking about the lens that we're looking through. That particular patient, from a Medicare lens, I would be strongly considering rolling him to inpatient, because we want to keep our observation numbers down, and we also want to know that this patient is going, it looks like, or we also see that this patient may be here for the long haul. So you're going to consider rolling that patient to inpatient status. That's the Medicare lens. Now, say for instance, we're looking at this patient through a managed care lens. Okay, he has failed or antibiotics from the doctor's office. He has had 24 hours of IV antibiotics. However, he has not seen an infectious diseases consult, and we still waiting on our cultures to pen or lab work or whatever the case may be. From a managed care standpoint, you are going to try to figure out, first of all, who is the payer, which company, and if they have any rules that apply to your facility. So there may be some contractual rules there, and you may want to see another 48 hours, maybe 72 hours of failed observation prior to rolling this patient. And why you will do that is because you do not want to have a denial. We'll talk about denials in another video. This is the difference between a Medicare and a managed care patient. There are different ways to look at them and different ways to ensure reimbursement to your facility. That's a utilization reviews nurse job, is to make sure that the patient that you are viewing is getting the appropriate care in the appropriate status to ensure proper reimbursement to your facility from the payers. So you are basically helping the hospital toe the line and make good decisions when it comes to trying to reimburse their money. So I hope, let me talk about something else. So one thing I want to talk about when it comes to statuses and from a Medicare standpoint is code 44s. This is a major thing because it applies to Medicare patients, and if your Medicare patient is admitted to say an inpatient status and you like, girl, honey, he came in here for what is something that people come in for and they like to put, he came in here for abdominal pain, honey, and nausea, and the doctor put him in inpatient status, but he only had one pain med and one Zofran, and they getting ready, it looks like after his GI consult he's going to be discharged. You may have to roll that patient back to observation status. And if this patient is a Medicare patient, you will have to do a code 44. And that's a whole nother ball game, but that is something that you should be thinking about, and it's something that your facility should be training you about. If you guys want more utilization review videos, go ahead and drop comments below. And if you want to train with me for utilization review personally, or you want somebody to coach you through utilization review, maybe you're new to it and you're not getting the flow of things, go ahead, drop comments below, email me. I would love to help you out as much as I can. That is that for this video. I hope it was informative. Please remember that I love you, but God loves you so much more. God bless you.